What up, everybody? Welcome to the Smoking Tire Podcast. This episode is brought to you by Hellofresh, which brings you fresh, pre-measured ingredients and mouth-watering seasonal recipes delivered right to your door. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on Hellofresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable, and that's why it's America's #1 meal kit. Here's what they do. They cut out stressful meal planning and grocery store trips so you can enjoy cooking and get dinner on the table in just about 30 minutes or less. I love to cook, so I can relate to this. Cooking is fun. The actual cooking part, deciding what to cook, going to the grocery store, and if it's just you and one other person, having to buy way more than you need to make dinner, then having waste on the back end, that sucks. Plus, a lot of the best recipes, like if you really have to prep from zero, take a long time. HelloFresh solves for this. They send you fresh, pre-portioned ingredients, and that way when you come home from work, you come home from school, you're tired, you don't want to commit 2 hours to dinner, you don't have to. From start to finish, it's about 30 to 40 minutes, and the food is delicious. The recipes, you can choose from hundreds of options. Each week, you choose the recipes you want on the website. They deliver you an individual bag with all of the things you need, the produce, the spices, the seasonings, all pre-portioned. So you don't have to like sit there and measure. You just open, dump. It's money. It is very money. And you can change your delivery day, your food preferences, your plan size, skip weeks whenever you need. It is a fabulous system. It's so good that even after my freebies for reading these ads ran out, me and my wife, we kept doing it for a little while. I even learned some new recipes. I kept like the recipe card they gave me. So if I ever want to make it again later, you know, or for more people, I could using that recipe. It's great. Go to HelloFresh.com/SmokingTire14. HelloFresh.com/SmokingTire14 and use code SmokingTire14 for up to 14 free meals plus free shipping. Okay, ready? HelloFresh.com/SmokingTire14 and then use code SmokingTire14 for 14 free meals. That's why HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. Speaking of #1 things, this summer, get the most out of your newfound, hopefully, ability to travel abroad by learning the destination's language with Babbel, the #1 selling language learning app. From ordering in restaurants, asking for directions, getting a cab, or getting a deeper understanding of the culture, Babbel makes the whole process of learning a new language addictively fun and easy. With bite-sized lessons you can actually use in the real world, Babbel is a can't-miss travel essential. Babbel's 15-minute lessons make it the perfect way to learn a new language on the go. Unlike those infamous language classes you took in high school, Babbel designs their courses with practical, real-world conversations in mind, things you get to use in everyday life. The teaching method has been scientifically proven to be effective, and they have up to 14 different languages, including Spanish, French, Italian, and German. Plus, Babbel's speech recognition technology helps you improve your pronunciation and accent. There's so many ways to learn with Babbel. In addition to the lessons, you can access podcasts, games, videos, stories, even live classes. Right now, when you purchase a 3-month Babbel subscription, you'll get an additional 3 months for free. That's 6 months for the price of 3 at Babbel.com, promo code TIRE. That's B-A-B-B-E-L, Babbel, B-A-B-B-E-L.com, code TIRE for 3 extra months for free. And we're also brought to you by Sennheiser. These guys make pro-level audio equipment. We've been using their wireless microphones and headphones in our studios and video shoot for years, and now they are in the earbud game. Couple things about earbuds. First off, they're always about sound quality, right? Sennheiser has got that sound quality. And for 75 years, while other companies have focused on phones, tablets, etc., Sennheiser has exclusively focused on sound. Their new Momentum True Wireless 2s deliver the best listening experience and have been finally crafted for even the most discerning listener. With their free smart control app, you can adjust the sound to your own personal preference with a built-in equalizer. And now you can switch off your surroundings and dive into that impactful song song or important episode with their new active noise cancellation feature. With up to a 28-hour battery life, these earbuds can last you all day and then some. Man, 28 hours. That's a long time. It's no wonder CNET called the Momentum True Wireless 2's clearly superior sound quality to the AirPods Pro and the earbuds to get in if you value sound quality over anything else. I have been a fan of Sennheiser since, I don't know, 15 years ago when I started using their lavs. Then we bought their headphones for the studio, and these earbuds, I've never had quality like this. They're all crystal clear, and unlike those other earbuds from the phone company, they stay in my ears. They don't fall out, which is another very important thing that's not written on the page, but it's important to me. Why settle for anything less than great sound? Hear the difference with Sennheiser. Right now, for my first 100 listeners who go to Sennheiser.com/podcast and use promo code TIRE, you'll receive 15% off the Momentum True Wireless 2 earbuds or anything else they make. That's 15% off when you go to Sennheiser.com. That's Sennheiser, Sennheiser.com/podcast. Use promo code TIRE. 15% off for the first 100 listeners. And of course, once you got those headphones in, settle down with the old Tradecraft Farms, the official THC CBD provider of the Smoking Tire podcast. From the most scrumptious edibles and delightful flowers to the most portable and potent pens. Wow, I really alliterated on the fly there. That was very good. Tradecraft Farms is it, folks. If you're in California, visit one of their retail locations. Hit up their website to see where they're at. I like their Port Hueneme location. It's a good excuse to drive your sports car. It's a good destination. If you're not in California and don't have access to these types of delightful goodies legally, just give them a follow on Instagram, Tradecraft Farms and Tradecraft_Farms. They take you to pretty much the same place. They own them both. Or at Fire, if you just want to keep it real simple. At Fire. Tradecraft Farms is the official provider of such delightful floral goodies, the Smoking Tire podcast. All right, on this episode of the show, we've got Magnus Walker in studio. He has a new season of his show, The Next Big Thing, on the Hagerty YouTube channel. He also just released a sneaker collaboration with Nike, which is very, very cool. The subtext of that is that Magnus is getting old and needs to switch from boots to sneakers. That's the subtext of that. But we don't have to talk about that because dirt don't slow him down. Magnus Walker on the show. What's up?
Same old, you know, beard's getting gray.
Other than that, has Just for Men approached you yet?
No, there's none of that. You know,
dirt don't slow you down,
that's
but
right.
gray.
Well, you know, there's just less of it and it's thinner. That's about it.
Well, I mean, you aged much more gracefully than most.
I turned 54 last week.
Congratulations. Happy birthday.
Cheers
Happy birthday. L'chaim.
As they say, yes.
Bought yourself a new house?
Yeah, Hannah and I
with your partner, Hannah,
bought a house, yeah.
Who's fabulous.
Yes, she
One
is.
of the most fabulous people out there.
I am a lucky guy on many, many levels.
I mean, to have somebody that fabulous whose gig it is to write about cars, it's pretty good for you, huh?
Yeah, and the great thing about it is Hannah will say she's not a car person, and the great thing about that is we're all car people, but even I get bored of 24/7 car talk. She's able to switch off quite easily.
Well-rounded.
Yeah, and it's not 24/7 car talk, so that's one of the many things that are great about her.
Yeah. That's, I mean, I'm happy that my wife isn't really a car person. She's come to appreciate, Hannah has come to appreciate certain things about
What does your
cars.
Hannah do?
She works at Twitter.
Oh, all right.
She's actually, she just got promoted. She's actually the director of research at Twitter.
Chief Twitter.
It's pretty G job.
I don't really do the Twitter. I'm on it, but I seldom post on it.
I learned that this morning when I tried to tag you in promoting this podcast. Yeah, you're not much of a tweeter. That's okay. Your Instagram is your medium for sure, and YouTube.
It took me some time to get to that as well, but you know, it's amazing what you can do with a phone in your pocket.
Yeah. What was your when you were promoting like your fashion business back in the day, what was your medium of communication?
Well, it's interesting. We were talking about that the other day. 20 years ago, it was a lot of stylists coming down pulling wardrobe for artists to go on tour, promo, music video.
It was the more traditional method
Old
of getting
school, and weirdly it seemed pretty easy. We just organically evolved from the boardwalk in Venice to a retail store on Melrose, and the store on Melrose became like the one-stop rock and roll shop. So every band that was on tour that was playing a gig had some downtime. They'd come through. And that was how I met everyone from Alice Cooper to Madonna. So back then it was just more organic. You didn't really think about, oh, I've got to put a post up.
Yeah.
We were just doing it, and people were coming, pulling. And we got on the cover of like Rolling Stone. And
really? Who was wearing it on Rolling Stone?
Remember the band Belly?
Oh, yeah.
So Belly was on the cover of Rolling Stone. We did a bunch of sequence stuff, which was part Elvis, part rock and roll, but we had everyone from Social Distortion wearing them to Smashing Pumpkins to Belly on the cover of Rolling Stone.
That must have been cool as hell.
Yeah, you know, it was funny. When I got my green card 20 years ago, I had to make a book of everything that I'd done because I went through this thing called First Preference, and I had to prove I had some sort of artistic ability. And
I am worthy.
Yeah, it was essentially that, but it was a trip down memory lane of going through the scrapbook because we actually kept a scrapbook. Yeah. We didn't have a phone. It wasn't like you had a favorites folder.
You can't be like customs officer. I have 350,000 Instagram followers.
You know, those guys in the bank, they don't seem to care about how many Instagram followers you've got, right? But back then it was old school. I mean, it was pretty exciting to be on the cover of Rolling Stone and Hit Parade.
Hell yeah.
And then there was the fashion side of it, all the fashion magazines. You know, we were on Vogue and just various things. So it was different back then, but it seemed, you just adapt to the environment, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Do you know our friend Nino, who used to work for us on our old show and edited for us, and he was also kind of a musician? I don't know if you ever met him. I think you may have at one point, but he just started a fashion line. My audience on Instagram were the meanest they've ever been to anybody about Nino's fashion line.
Fashion credit.
But he made he learned to sew, he made pieces from scratch, he's doing like sublimation dye printing and the fabrics, and like, you know, all these people in our audience talked mad shit, but I showed it to fucking Matt Jacobson of Birdwell Beach Bridges, who's like,
oh, this is cool.
Have that guy call me on Monday.
There you go.
And so, like, y'all can go eat a dick.
It's all about who you know. But, I actually.
But he got Machine Gun Kelly and Lil Nas X wearing his things. He goes to that Melrose
flea market swamp meet.
Yeah, he's got a booth there, and he moves units.
That's super cool. I mean, yesterday we were at the Rose Bowl, H&I, shopping for inspiration for the house, and it's amazing how inspiring the Rose Bowl is for antiques / furniture / Is
that the good one? The Rose Bowl.
The Rose Bowl, second Sunday of the month, is the granddaddy of all flea markets. So it's everything from 200-year-old antiques to people like you just talking about doing fashion.
I went to one at the Santa Monica airport a couple weeks ago.
That's a little different.
It was not.
Yeah,
it was like, it seemed like there were 5 booths on repeat throughout.
There's
the whole
a theme there. You know, it's West Side. It's more Holly Hobby interior design. I mean, we've gone there. If you want to be, I think for you, you're more suited to the Melrose Flea Market on a Sunday, the Rose Bowl, and I saw one come up on Cahuenga just north of Hollywood Boulevard.
Oh, really? Oh, that seems like my speed.
Yeah, and there's one right there. You know, there's a lot more flavor. Let's put it there.
Yeah.
What are you expecting, Santa Monica? Come on.
No, it was weird.
I mean, you're a West Sider, I know.
It wasn't, but it wasn't a West Side. It was like, it was just all
Holly Hobby.
Just yes, that's a much better
shabby chic.
There you go.
That one's shabby
without
chic.
The chic part. It was just shabby. Shabby and pretending to be chic, I think, is more like it.
But I'm still sewing. You know, I'm making face masks and putting pockets on my shirts for phones and things that don't fit.
Yeah, and you're collaborating with Nike on sneakers.
Yeah,
it's no small gig.
Yeah, I mean, that was 3 years in the making.
Again, by the way.
I'm glad they fit. I'm glad they fit.
They do fit. I'm not wearing them today because we were filming in the fucking dirt this morning. I'm not going to wear $500 shoes.
Come on.
Although clearly you do. Yours are like...
Mine are like, you know, aged extremely quickly.
Well, because when you were promoting them, you pretty much were only taking pictures of yours. And I thought that they were going to be these, like, pre-dirty.
Yeah, pre-dirty.
And I'm not that into pre-dirty.
I get it.
And when you gave them to me and I opened the box, and oh, just his are fucking dirty.
That's right. Yeah.
They're not pre-dirty. This is great.
That was a discussion with Nike because I'd said, hey, I'm going to show mine all beat up because that's the way I'm wearing them. And they were sure, you know, the more beat up it is, the more authentic it is.
I think they're right. So I just didn't realize that wasn't how they came.
Yeah, there was a mild confusion. So I did have to have one post. Hey, this, if you're concerned, this is how they come out of the box. For you sneaker pimps that want them all white, you know, that don't want them beat up and cracked up.
Well, it's a texture that's like, it comes like a about to crack.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like it's like ready to crack, but not cracked.
Pre-distressed. The concept behind it was to emulate the car, which was originally gold and then sprayed various colors and has been white for 20 years, that the shoe will crack up and distress like the car did. So the way the paint was applied to the leather, the original color was gold. It's already sort of pre-cracked, so it's going to crackle up and deconstruct. It's part of Nike's SB deconstruct line.
But you said 3 years in the making, so take me through the process. They called you, or you got a hold of someone?
Do you want the long story or the semi-long story?
Semi.
All right, so I'd met Nike back in 2012 when the Urban Outlaw trailer first came out. I got an email from Sandy Bodek, who was the vice president of Nike, inspired by the film or the trailer. Long story short, we screened them a rough edit at the Soho House and hosted a 2-day design summit for Nike's designers at the Loft downtown in 2012.
Did you get a lot of fucking mileage out of that trailer?
Yeah, but that was pure. I mean, literally.
Oh my God, did you get mileage out of that
trailer?
Within
a week of that coming out, we didn't know if 5,000 people were going to see it or 5 million. But when Nike approached us within a couple of days, we were like, wow, where's the connection here? We didn't really see it, but it was just, I suppose, thinking outside the box a little bit. So yeah, we knew we were onto something, and Sandy said, if you ever need anything, let us know. And we kind of lost contact, and then unfortunately he passed away in 2018. He had throat cancer and passed away, and we went up there for the, I suppose, the memorial in Portland. And a couple of months before, I'd been approached by what became a buddy of mine called Pelly, who ran Nike SB. And he said, hey, are you interested in doing a shoe with us? What do you think about that? One of our pro skaters is a Porsche guy, a shod wear. And I said, well, I don't skate. I just want to let you know that up front. I don't skate. He goes, that doesn't matter. It's more a collab on attitude and style and the crossover between the car world and the skate world and the need for speed. So we went up there, attended Sandy's memorial, met Nike, toured the campus, the kitchen, and they're all car guys. They've all got
Was that cool?
Yeah, it was super cool. Yeah, because for me, as a kid growing up when I was 10, back in the 70s, I ran in Nike Waffles, and Nike wasn't that old a company back then. And one of my early heroes was a guy called Sebastian Coe, Olympic middle distance world record holder, who ironically won the 1,500 meters at the LA Olympics in 1984. Huh. He was a Nike athlete.
Why was he? Were you like a distance runner back
middle
in the day?
Distance and cross country. And Sebastian Coe bit, to put it into perspective, as a young kid, when I was it was 78, so I was 11. Yeah, I ran in the Nike Waffle.
Bro, look at the price.
Yeah.
1,500. That's Sotheby's.
That was the shoe I ran in the 70s. And Sebastian Coe, who went on to be Olympic world champion and world record holder, he'd signed this little certificate I had, and all it said was, well done, Sebastian Coe. But I still have it 43 years later.
Oh, wow,
so
cool.
It kind of meant something. And when I went to Nike, they had a whole Sebastian Coe wing.
Oh, really?
A whole dedicated to him. So that was sort of full circle for me as a 10-year-old, to Sandy Bodecker in 2012, to 2018, the first conversation with Pelly. And then Nike's a huge corporation, so you don't hear anything for 6 months, 9 months, a year.
Yeah.
By 2019, is it on? Yeah, we're still doing it. And then right at the beginning of what became COVID, like the week before, like March 8th, I finally met a shot for the first time. He came down the warehouse, and it was sort of like, we talked about it for 2 years. Finally, it was like, you two should meet and see if you click. He came down in his Porsche, and that was it. The sneaker was on. And I only ever did 2 drawings, and I dated him. It was like March 25th and April 3rd. And Pelly essentially said, because I'd never designed a shoe, but I'd done clothing and various other things. He goes, just put all your inspiration on it and we'll scale it back. So I tried to incorporate a bunch of my details, like the drilled door handles. The original sketch had perforations in the swoosh. The top part had louvers, little slits in the leather.
Listen, bud, this is going to be $10,000 to make.
Yeah. It was kind of like that. And the shoe was a lot more red, white, and blue, and it had a ghosty Union Jack on the side. And they kind of scaled it back a little bit and made the shoe a little bit more wider, but it didn't really change. And so the first sample we got in August, the blue wasn't quite right. It was more of like a sort of turquoisey teal blue. And the hardest part of the shoe really was just getting the blue on the swoosh to match the blue on the bumper.
Because they're different materials?
Yeah, different materials. This was
I'm sorry, the blue on your bumper.
Yeah, the blue on my bumper matching the blue on the swoosh.
Yeah, sorry. I was thinking about from one part of the shoe to the other. Sorry,
interesting point, because this was the first time in a long time Nike had done a deconstruction dunk that was multiple fabrics, i.e. leather and canvas. So, most of them are all leather.
My favorite is the hidden Easter egg tartan on the
Oh,
inside.
yeah.
Tartan on the inside. When I found that, I was like, oh shit, this is dope.
Well, that sort of tied back into the fashion background. I've done tartan interiors on quite a few of my cars, and the blue interior was actually inspired by my 67S. So that had the blue interior tartan there.
And mismatched laces. I love the mismatched laces.
Yeah, it actually comes with 3 laces, as you know.
Yeah, not being stingy with the laces.
Not being stingy with the laces.
It's good. But here, wait, how come, though, it's sold as an SB, but it's pretty much an Air Force One, isn't it?
Well,
it's not really. I'm wearing them. In wearing them, they don't feel like skateboarding shoes. They feel like basketball shoes from the 70s.
It's real close. The problem, the difference with the deconstruction is, there's less padding, so it's already not quite as puffy, and I think the canvas really makes it feel more vintage.
Yeah, it feels like a vintage shoe for sure. But my friend Nino had this fashion show launching his shit the other night, and I built a whole outfit around those shoes. He was like, "You have to dress up." I was like, "The only cool thing I own are these Magnus shoes."
What was the rest of the outfit to match the shoes?
Do you know Robert Graham on Venice? They make like crazy, pretty aggressive, like Miami shirts.
Okay.
So I got a fun pattern shirt that matched the thing.
Is this sort of Miami Vice style?
A little bit, a little Cuban influence.
Little Havana inspired.
Kind of, yeah.
I mean, I kind of want to get back into the fashion game, but not doing what I did before, where I ran all the production and samples. I'd sort of be more on the creative end, collaborating, doing like a capsule collection.
I mean, you could really do, the collab game is enormous right now, so you could just lend your design influence to a whole bunch of stuff.
That's sort of what I mean, the Nike, I think, will be the catalyst for that, because this was a collaboration that I don't think people expected.
Yeah.
I was always wearing my Doc Martens because they were super comfortable, and they still are. So for me, it kind of came.
Just bought a new pair of Docs.
You did?
Last week, I bought it for the first time in 5 years.
New Docs are not comfortable.
No, but they make them. They make a real soft. I'm a bitch. I don't buy the ones that are like
super
suck
hardcore.
for. These are gonna suck for 3
2
4
years.
years.
Yeah.
No, I
you
want
didn't get that one.
Do you have one that's comfortable now? I'll buy that.
There you go.
Yeah, I suck.
I mean, the interesting thing for me with a Nike collab, and we knew it would be like this, but not to quite this extreme. Like I'd done stuff with Hot Wheels before, but Nike people are fanatical, probably as fanatical as Star Wars fans, right? So when this thing kind of leaked out a few weeks before it came out, that was when the hype started. Then it got on Hypebeast and various other places. Last week, Ashad and I are doing an interview with GQ magazine, 8-page spread. So this thing's got some 8-page spread in GQ.
About a fucking shoe. Awesome. That's great.
It's a story, It's not just a shoe. It's the melding of two styles coming together, cross culture brought together by the love of the car. Really, I think that was a catalyst for it.
Cars take up.
Yeah, there's some LA River shots, of course, but my
you
point.
Got that permit, LA River?
Come on, you drive right in. What permit? There's no one there. The gate's wide open.
Is it really?
I mean, there is no gate.
Really?
You got to go near the Home Depot in San Fernando.
Drop that pin for me.
Later
before you go home, drop that pin.
It used to be really easy when it was under the 6th Street Bridge. Now you got to go a little further north through Chinatown. But whenever I post a photo in the bridge and in the river, and I've done a few of them, everyone's like, "How do you get there? Do you need a permit?"
Well, I've lived here for 12 years. I've always thought you needed a permit. I didn't realize you had to be the fucking outlaw.
There's an inner outlaw within everyone, I think. Inner outlaw within everyone. But to finish my Nike point, the bit that really surprised me, and I think was just the demand for the shoe. And, Nike will never tell you how many they're making, but it seems like the demand is like 10 times the amount they made. So, unfortunately, there's a lot of disappointed people that never got the shoe. Well,
I guess you can usually judge, right, by the eBay market or the whatever, what they're going for, and they're going for a lot more than they cost new, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, on one hand it is, and of course you got all the enthusiasts that can't get the shoe. Well, of course, but or don't want to spend 4 times retail to get it. Of course, and that's unfortunate. Yeah. But if you're talking about part one of a hopefully long, partnership together, the fact that the demand has far outstripped the supply can only be seen as a good thing. I think so too. Yeah. I think Nike knows how to play that game. I've already got a couple of ideas for other art-inspired cars that I own that might make great shoes, like the 914 and You've got some fun colored cars. It's got some real interesting interior and exterior combos that could be really fun. And when you start laying that out on a shoe, a sneaker, whether it's an SB or Jordan or Air Force One or whatever it may be, right? It's kind of like
For me, I like doing projects that are creative, and this one was a creative project.
Yeah. What about going back to, like, you know, John Ward over at Icon is going deep into this leatherworking thing. Have you ever thought about doing specific handmade pieces that are like, you know, real avant-garde kind of things, or not really?
I'm more wearable, functional stuff to me. You know, I've done like the that type of thing back in the series days when we were designing stuff for Alice Cooper, for example, and it was more avant-garde and theatrical and stage wear.
Yeah.
For me, I'm all about comfort and usability. But, you know, I definitely like to collaborate with someone that's outside of the box that people thought, oh, I never saw that coming.
Yeah.
Because that's sort of how the Nike thing was.
Yeah. No, it's
Maybe
really
I should
cool.
talk to you and you guys down there
Well,
at Birdwell or something.
You've been like Boots forever. You've been, you know, and now all of a sudden here's this sneaker.
Yeah.
That's like, whoa. It's not even like, hey, by the way, Magnus is kind of getting into sneakers now. It's like Boots, your own sneaker.
Yeah.
Like,
it's a big jump. It's a big jump.
It's a big leap. Yeah.
I have to say, though, if the sneaker wasn't comfortable, I wouldn't wear it because I'm still averaging 10,000 steps a day walking around. So for me, it has to be comfortable. And you have to be able to drive in it. So for me, I did a lot of manipulation to get it where it was broken in to begin with.
You should have someone besides yourself test the drivability. You're calibrated to like fucking cowboy boots. Your calibration compared to what you normally drive in, like flippers would be a good. Ice skates would be an upgrade.
You got to be able to heel and toe and left foot brake in anything, and then
I checked. You can. You definitely can in these shoes for sure.
Yeah, they're not too wide,
cool.
but the toe box is not too wide either. You know, but not too narrow where they crimp your toes and stuff. So
they're comfy.
There's a lot involved
nice,
in having a piece of footwear that you can wear all day long. So that's the story there.
And in case you're wondering, folks out there, can you fit your orthotics in them? The answer is yes.
You've tried that. You Dr. Scholl soles.
Straight, I did.
Yeah.
I did.
I get it.
The next big thing.
Next big thing, MBT.
Season 2 just premiered, Hagerty.
Yeah.
Episode 1 was what? The AMG Merc 560? Oh, the 500 SEC.
500 SEC. There it is right there. Oh, look at that.
Which was the factory hot rod.
Yeah, the factory hot rod. This was an interesting story because that wasn't the choice car originally for my New York episode.
What was the first choice?
Well, it was extremely ambitious, which will explain why it didn't work. It was an Aston Martin Lagonda.
Oh, yeah.
And
you don't have to explain why it didn't
Well,
work.
the funny thing is we sourced two of them, and both were supposedly running driving cars. But literally the day before we were supposed to film, we got a word that neither one of them was running. But the original concept was British supercars that never really took off or never really made it to where they should have been.
Sure.
So it wasn't just the Aston Martin Lagonda. It was my crazy buddy Phil, Mr. Enthusiast in New York, had just bought a Jag XJ220.
Oh, yeah.
So here's another iconic British supercar that really should be more well known in the league of a 959 or an F40 because it's from that era. And back in the day, it did hold the Nürburgring lap time for a minute.
What are they? They must be up in the 3s and 4s
I think
now.
that's entry level, yeah.
Yeah, at least, right?
Yeah, and he bought one from, I guess, the Cultivated Collector guy. You probably know him.
Oh, yeah, Ivanhoe?
Yeah, so that's where his car came from.
Oh, we got it from Ivanhoe? Cool.
I think so, yeah. So the word is out now.
We got one of his cars. You see the Venturi 400 down
I
here?
saw that, yeah.
Yeah, that's an Ivanhoe mobile, yeah.
So, of course, this car wasn't ready either. It's on old tires, not available at Tire Rack. You got to bring them in from England. COVID this, Brexit that. You can't get tires in time. And then, of course, it hasn't ran in a long time. So it'll drive around the block and fill out a shot of it driving through a Burger King in New Jersey. So I'm thinking this thing's good to go. But no, there's the one specialist somewhere in New England who's like the world's slowest mechanic who can't replace a few hoses in time for episode 1 of the next big thing. So the Mercedes came in sort of very, very last minute. But ended up being a great the story was pretty much the same. I'm playing the Wall Street broker guy coming into the city, doing the city thing. But the car changed at the last minute. So that's the story behind episode 1.
I mean, Lagondas, sourcing 2 obviously is the correct move.
Well,
we thought that.
Sourcing
3 would have really been the correct.
I mean, does anyone have one that runs and drives?
That's one of those cars where I would love to find one and just drop an LS motor and a GM automatic gearbox
and be done with it and cut out all that electronic stuff.
Get rid of everything.
I mean, it's amazing how prehistoric the electronics are in that for a 40-year-old car.
The CRT it screens.
But something was just awesome.
They look so great.
Yeah,
I hate that they're not good because they look amazing.
And that's a later one right there, the 91.
Yeah, that's a Series 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Series 1 from the 70s. I remember as a kid, I played this game called Top Trumps. Did you ever get Top Trumps, a card game about supercars?
I know what it is because Jeremy Clarkson talked about it on Top Gear all the time.
Yeah, so it comes in a pack like a card deck, and I don't remember how many cards there were, but of course there were stats, 0 to 60 horsepower, top speed, blah, blah,
and
blah.
You would like drag race them with each other.
You kind of like, yeah, you put down your Countach against your 512 boxer and see which one did 0 to 60 the quickest or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And anyway, as a kid,
before forums.
Yeah, before everyone knew everything on a forum and would give you their opinion on what's right and wrong, right? Yeah, before forums came around.
But the one you ended up filming that 500, which is a Euro car, right?
Yes.
We didn't actually get the 500 in America.
That's a grey market one, yeah, 84.
Is there really a big difference between the 500 and like a 560?
I don't know.
Hannah had a 560 though?
She had a 560 SL.
But the engine.
I mean, I always thought the 560 SL, we must have got like a rough one with a bunch of deferred maintenance because I never thought it was great. There wasn't a lot of headroom. It wasn't fast. Maybe we just got a duff one, and that's the car we ended up trading into the Rolls Royce.
Right, but is this 500 fast?
It's faster than the 560 was, but it's not about speed, that car. To me, it was all about style, right? And then when you see the wide body ones, like the really wide body ones.
Like that one. That's a pre-merger AMG 6-liter that's like a...
Yeah, this one wasn't super
looking.
fast. If you watch the episode, it bounces around quite a bit.
The wheels are so good. Those 5-star monoblock 80s AMG wheels, they're so great. So a lovely car.
Yeah, and this was the last... the backstory to the first episode was, it was the last of the 5 episodes we shot in New York. So we started one in Boston, we did one in Brooklyn, we did one in New Jersey, 2 in Jersey, and 1 in the city. And this one was literally the very last night, where the night before we'd shot Phil's Ford Escort Cosworth and Maserati Shamal in New Jersey.
The Shamal.
Yeah, the Shamal.
I love the Shamal.
So that was Friday night shoot that ended around 5 a.m. Friday night. This was Saturday night shoot that started at midnight and literally ended up about 9 a.m. on the Sunday.
Yikes.
So we did 2 back-to-back night shoots in and around New York.
Must have been like Hollywood days. Like old school, fully nocturnal.
Well, it was for me. I went and took a nap between like 6 p.m. and 11 p.m. So when I got to set at like midnight, I was actually pretty refreshed.
You get home and you're like, I have absolutely no idea what's going on right now.
Well, you're kind of like in the Twilight Zone, you know, feeling like you're a zombie in the Twilight Zone, and then we had to get a flight back to L.A. later that same day.
So, I really like those cars, though. That 500 SEC.
That profile.
It looks cool. I think the episode came out great. It's super cinematic.
What are these things worth now?
I actually don't know. I didn't look it up. I didn't do the search. Zach, do we know?
What else is going to be the next big
great.
thing? So the Shamal. Did you enjoy driving the Shamal? Did it
The
work?
Shamal was another one that it was Phil's car. Apparently it works great now after we've shot it 2 months after.
You found out what was wrong with it.
Phil knew what was wrong with it, but he didn't have the time to fix it. The suspension was horrible. Like I'd get on it and you'd feel the back end drop down. And I'd hear the tire rubbing on the fender wall on the Jersey Turnpike. And probably in the video, I haven't seen the footage yet, but I'm sure it's going to be bouncing around like a platypus nodding donkey.
Oh, that's frustrating because it looks so good. I don't know how long it's been since I've seen a
I mean, you don't really
Shamal
see
in
them,
person.
but here's kind of the weird thing. I keep talking about my buddy Phil, Mr. Enthusiast, only because 2 of the cars are his. And he just bought one, and then it turns out I'm literally 200 yards from where I live in downtown LA in front of SciArc. One of them pulls out from that white apartment complex opposite SciArc, and there's a guy that's owned it for 13 years.
So that guy I know.
Okay.
Because his
he also owns
other
a Ferrari.
car is a yellow 348 Spider that
Right.
I rented on Turo for the day.
Okay.
And it runs nice. And he says, and I said, what's it like to rent a 25-year-old Ferrari on Turo to strangers? He goes, it's nothing. My other car's a Shamal.
Does he rent that as well?
No.
Okay.
No, he doesn't. And I was like, "Are you fucking for real?" He's like, "Do you actually know what that is? Because if so, we're going to be friends."
Yeah. They didn't make many of them, but it's not that rare because one lives 200 yards from where I live.
Yeah, and apparently when you go to the pub and you go, "Hey, I've got a Maserati Shamal at home," the ladies are not particularly impressed. They don't understand, but it's a great looking car.
It does look great. Yeah.
Have you gotten a picture of a Maserati Shamal?
Pull up the
Zach,
Shamal.
It's like the ultimate bi-turbo Evo. If there was a bi-turbo
super
Evo,
boxy,
that would
super
be it.
flared 80s. So that's episode number.
Great looking little car. Is it Giugiaro also?
I think it is.
I mean,
Yeah, because
how
it's
is
got
it
the
not?
Countach rear quarter flare.
Yeah.
See that?
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like your Countach, that profile there.
The trapezoidal
There you
wheel
go.
arch.
Trapezoidal.
Yeah.
What is that, Pythagoras' theorem or something? There?
No, it means the shape like a fucking
Yeah,
trapezoid.
I get it.
It's
Yeah.
a great looking little car,
It is.
actually. I think this photo maybe doesn't even do it justice.
No.
Black. What color was Phil?
Black. Go to Mr. Enthusiast. He put a photo of the rear quarter. Is
that Instagram?
On
Mr.
the ground,
Enthusiast?
Mr.
Yeah.
Enthusiast. He just plastic dipped the rear, the wheels black as well, so it's black on black on black.
Fucking great looking
It's a cool car.
It's funky. It's
Yeah.
like different. All right, so what else did you get to drive?
Well, episode 2, which we're just in the final edit process, even though that episode's coming out on Friday, and you guys know how it is editing, right? It's like, where's this shot? Where's that shot? Do we have sound here?
Look at that.
All right.
See, black
Yeah.
and in person, way better.
Yeah. And look at
Way
it with
better.
look at it with the black wheels.
Oh, black wheels too?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's the nose looks like a Lancia Delta Integrale.
Right. Well,
honestly.
that was his other car. He had one of those
Oh,
as well.
that's his ideal. If you have had a Delta Integrale and you want to go even further into that weird rabbit hole,
Yeah.
this is the next level of Strange for
That's
you.
my buddy Phil. This will be like the Phil takeover. He's had all those Group B cars from a Lancia Stratos to the 035 to...
It looks like he has good taste in watches.
Yeah,
too.
there's a Big Apple Outlaw car, the old...
Yeah. So okay.
Blah,
so
blah, blah.
next after that was what?
Episode 2 is 2 Ferraris that I'm actually pretty interested in to own myself. One is a 355, last of the wedgie era, and then the 360, beginning of the new flowy era. And they seem to be within 10 grand of each other, affordable-wise.
Yeah.
So episode number 2 is those 2 cars back-to-back out in Malibu.
If I had all the money, I would have a 355 with a
360 Renninger.
Well, that's an interesting idea. That's
That's
interesting.
my take on the show. Not spoiler alert. 'Cause-
No, that's.
But
pretty-
anyway,
yeah.
go ahead.
I
If
was
you
just
had
going
all
to
the
say a
money,
spare powertrain so that when it had to go in for service, they could there'd be no downtime. Just plop in the other powertrain.
So the
Hot
front-
swap like Tesla battery.
I'm talking if I had big money,
Right.
like, you know what I'm talking about? Like
Yeah.
enough money to buy.
We're not talking about Countach money.
enough
We're talking
money
about big
to buy. No. Countach money is money that I can put in as long as I get back at least as much on the other end.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
talking about money I can
When's the other end though? That's a
light on
lifelong keeper.
fire. That's true. It probably is. But I'm talking about light on fire.
I get
money.
it. Here's what I learned about the 355. It's a little bit like the Porsche 996 in the sense of, with a Porsche, you can't have a conversation about the headlights and the IMS bearing issue, right?
Yeah.
With the 355, everyone's going to tell you about timing belt service, got to take the engine out.
Yes.
Now, having spoken to a few people that own them, I think they suffer from the case of people own them and never drive them, right?
Yes.
Then they sell them. The new owner, Zach Ovia, buys it. He's got all this deferred maintenance. You got to take the engine out.
Yeah.
I think the key with a 355 is like any car. If you keep it running and the fluid's going through,
Yeah.
you're probably not taking that engine out quite as often as people say you are.
Well, and so there's this mentality among collectors, and I know it doesn't happen to you, and I try to make it not happen to me, which is, so you buy that car. It needs the engine out, right? You do it. All right. Now you spend your $10,000 or $15,000 at the engine out. You get it back. Now it's like, whoa, it's shiny, it's ready. Now you're like afraid.
Afraid to drive it.
You're afraid to drive
Is
it.
this you in the 328?
No, because
But this is what you did, right? Engine out.
my math, you don't have transverse engine, so it doesn't have to come out, thank God. But we did do the whole major service. But I determined that I wasn't going to try and make money. Don't care about that. I was going to try to lose less than if I had bought myself an equivalently priced new car and took a depreciation hit. And so it's like, if you bought a E-Class Mercedes new off the lot and drove it for 3 years, you'd lose $30,000, $35,000, $40,000. Am I going to drive $40,000 of value out of this 328? Not a chance.
No.
So I bought it, bought it cheap, did all the maintenance, did all the stuff, and drive it. Don't even care, and the math comes out just great.
Yeah. I never look at things that way. I just buy what I like. But that does make me think about what I drove here in.
In a
99
water-cooled car.
The 991 Turbo S.
Doesn't it have like a zillion miles on it?
It's now got 165,000 miles in it. When I bought it, it had 162.
And what year is it?
2014.
So someone put 160,000 miles on this car in
7 years.
7 years?
Yeah.
What do they do with it?
Apparently the guy commuted from like Newport Beach to Beverly Hills, so it's just freeway miles. It's not like four bros thrashed the crap out of it going up
one
to
owner?
Newcomb's. One owner car. Came with 50 pages of receipts. This guy had replaced the transmission 2 years ago when it had 120,000 miles on it. I guess he didn't use the brakes. He just downshifted through the transmission to slow down. So anyway, so I was not looking for a 991. To me, it's like a new appliance.
So within range of extended warranty.
Well, I'll tell you the story. I actually got something done on the warranty and it was replaced. But the point of my story is I was looking for a 997 turbo. Couldn't really find one. Then my buddy Paul Kramer Auto Kennel goes, hey, I've got something coming in 991 turbo. I was like, oh, I'm not really interested. It's PDK, it's a sunroof, blah, blah, blah. He told me how many miles were on it, and he said it had a sticker price of $193,000.
Uh-huh.
193.
Yeah.
7 years ago.
Uh-huh.
I bought it for pennies on the dollar.
Uh-huh.
Pennies on the dollar. Because no one wants one of those cars with that many miles on it. But to me, you guys have seen it.
I think
doesn't
it's
look any
interesting.
different to ones that have got 50,000 miles.
I want to peek around the interior when we're done.
Yeah, peek around.
I'm curious to see how the seats look. But yeah, go on.
So I think that's the most highest mileage 991 Turbo S in the country.
I haven't heard of one with more.
So I think the story really is about the prior owner who put all the miles on it.
For sure.
It was delivered to Walters Porsche in Riverside. He's the original owner. So I want to track that guy.
Did you meet the original
Never
owner?
met him. It was on consignment at Auto Kennel. I bought it within a day of
I feel like
it
Paul
going
could
up.
set that up.
Yeah, so I think maybe we make a show or a video, a program, a film, whatever you call it, about the highest mileage Turbo S.
I mean, look, if you had a 50-mile commute each way every day, you could do it in worse cars, couldn't you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when I first got it, it was almost anticlimactic. I didn't regret buying it, but I didn't get out of it looking over my shoulder going, I just can't, I'm in love with this thing. And it wasn't until Hannah and I drove to Moab for that Easter Jeep Safari. We took the scenic route back, did 800 miles, 12 hours in the car, and we got out not feeling beat up, not rattled. And I thought that's where this car excels. It's as quick as you want to go up the crest because the road will determine how fast you can go. But if you want to drive 500-600 miles or 1,000 miles in a day, you can do that in comfort.
What about stuff like shocks and bushings and stuff like that? Like where it's like where the miles is so incongruous with the age. How do you determine when that kind of stuff needs replacing in that car?
I guess when it gets irritatingly squeaky and rattly and it doesn't seem to handle quite as good.
Fair.
I haven't made it.
Pennies on the dollar.
Pennies on the dollar is the thing because I think a lot of people get afraid of putting miles on cars, right? So when I bought it and I realized, okay, this is a keeper for me, I started looking kind of like you're doing here and seeing what the average mileage one was, and it was probably 20 to 30,000 miles was the average on a 2014 Turbo S, and the average price was like 110, 120. So they are still six-figure cars unless you find one with, that many miles on it.
I mean, it's your kind of car for sure. It makes it interesting because otherwise that car's not interesting enough for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've toyed with trying to add my personality to it because...
Yeah, you'd have to paint it like some fucking crazy...
and then part of me doesn't want to do that because it just really blends in. As crazy as it is to say that car blends in LA, it does.
Yeah.
It's in the rollout color, that rhodium silver metallic with a red interior, which not my choice, but... It's kind of like I'm almost undercover in that car in a weird way.
That car in this town is not going to get a second look. It sounds a little, sorry if I sound like elitist, but that's what this town is. I mean, a 7-year-old Porsche is not going to turn a head here.
Some things on a street car are impractical about it, though. Center lock wheels, like, why does it need that, right?
I don't know. Yeah. Motorsport theater.
Yeah.
But when I talked to Guy Fieri about his car collection, at a certain point, he was like, bro, I don't buy yellow cars anymore. I don't, no convertibles, no yellow cars. He said he wanted people to look at him when he was nobody. Now that he's somebody, he doesn't want anybody looking at him when he's in his car.
One of my favorite vehicles to drive, and because we just bought this house and we're making all these trips here, there, and everywhere, my 2002 Chevy van.
Chevy van?
Yeah, because first of all, you go to Home Depot, it's practical, you can put a bunch of stuff in it. When we went to the Malibu Cars and Coffee on 4th of July, you saw how many cops were out right
They just let you park.
No, is anyone looking at you in a Chevy van when you go to Malibu Cars and Coffee? This is the greatest thing about it.
We have a hack for that, too. I'm so excited about this. The cops were being such shitbags to my wife, and she was about not being able to park a totally regular car in up there
in a shopping mall.
Yeah, but the fucking EV chargers are behind the barricades, and so they waved this Taycan right by, and I was like, oh, I see. We're bringing the Mach-E. We're bringing the Mach-E next time. And
how are you liking the Mach-E?
It's delightful. It's an appliance.
Right.
It's a toaster oven. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's kind of what that is.
It is a soulless appliance, but at doing appliance things, it is exceptional.
Okay, so it's
exceptional at appliances.
It's a good toast maker.
For sitting in traffic, it's great, man. It really is. The stereo fucking bangs, you know, Bang & Olufsen. It's got a great big trunk. The radar cruise is amazing. It's great. I like it a lot.
How's the Countach in traffic? How was that on Father's Day, you know, from the Peterson
you have to separate here.
Yeah.
How's the car?
Yeah.
How is the driver?
Okay. Okay, yeah.
The car is fine. Fine. Totally fine. The driver is having an anxiety.
You're stressing out a little bit. Are you getting hot in there? Are you sweating in there?
No, so I started the thing blasting the air conditioning, and it was fine for the first. This was what Magnus is asking about. Is there was a Father's Day drive from the Peterson Museum to Rodeo.
Is it Rodeo or Rodeo? What is it?
South of Jefferson, it's Rodeo.
Okay,
that's from Entourage. I didn't make that up, but
that's a good one. It's like the Fukuyama episode, but that's a whole nother story.
So it's like 7 or 8 miles lapping around Beverly Hills, and they pitch it as, oh, they're shutting the lights down.
Yeah.
So
this wasn't the Mille Miglia.
I figured it was somewhere between Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade and Milli Miglia, but it was much closer to Macy's Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Like it was literally 5 miles. It took an hour and 25 minutes to go the 7 miles.
That's true.
And people on the side of the road were losing their shit, and everyone was having a great time.
I was surprised how many people were lining the route.
A lot.
I was surprised by that.
It was a lot. And the car, the Countach itself, was fine. Normally, if the temperature is right at the middle of the thing, at one point, after cranking the air conditioning going nowhere for an hour, it crept up to like the 2/3 mark. Never got to the 3/4 and certainly never got to the red. But at the 2/3 mark, I killed the air conditioning.
Got it. That was it.
And I just was like, I guess
You're gonna sweat it out.
I guess we're not having air conditioning now because I don't want this to get hotter.
That's when you open the doors, all right?
That's when we open the doors.
Yeah.
Exactly. I was like, fucking doors up. And people
the doors look cool.
It looked cool. And so the car's fine. And there's dude, seriously, if you're moving at all, it's fine. It's normal. It's great. And if you're moving fast, it's the best thing ever.
Okay.
It's the next big thing.
The next big thing. You know, I did drive that car before you owned it.
I know.
When Mr. Barney's Beanery got
I know. You was the village bicycle before I fucking saved it.
I had it in the...
We drove it before you owned it.
I drove it before I owned it.
We filmed it.
He owned a couple of other cool cars, I recall. He had a Pantera, he had something else.
He had he had the Corvette the word Survivor was coined for cars about his car. He had the very first Survivor Corvette.
What year was that?
67 Tri-Power.
Okay.
Yeah, tuxedo black.
The year I was born.
It sold for strong money at Barrett. And then he had that Pantera, which I drove.
I drove that too.
Amazing. That Pantera.
I always wanted a Pantera.
That Pantera sealed the deal for me that stock Panteras are good.
Yeah, yeah.
And that they don't need some giant
GT5 Delta Wing body kit in white.
Well, they don't need a big cam hot rod engine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, big cams are not good in traffic in any car, it seems.
Well, what was so nice about that Pantera was it had this mild cam that made it rev almost like a European-style engine, not like a hot roddy engine. And that was so cool. I don't know. It was really nice.
It's all about the cam profile, right?
And he had a very low profile, low mileage 92 Viper that was like the 30th or 35th Viper ever made or something.
He had an ACR.
ACR GT. Yeah, he had a bunch. He kept some stuff. He offloaded like 3 or 4 cars, including mine, and he kept some other things.
Did you ever want a Viper? I always wanted a Viper.
I'm all of a sudden turning the corner on 92s and 93s. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, I'm like, wait, are they cool? They might be cool.
Season 1, next big thing. You know they're cool, right?
They are.
Is
cool.
Is an early Viper on it?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy it?
Well, this was a later Viper. It was a last gen Viper that Bisimoto owned, but I enjoyed it.
The like blue one or black one? Black one. Yeah. Those cars. They didn't sell very well new, but then immediately were worth over sticker, the last gen cars, instantly.
I have a buddy that bought a GTS back in the day when they first came out, whatever year that was, 94, 95, something like that. Racing stripes. I've always liked them. Always liked them.
They're cool. I drove a GTS once, and I didn't love driving it. And,
That was his right there in the blue and white.
And I liked the newest one a lot, but I never wanted to own one really. Our friend Vinny is really into them. But all of a sudden, there's a guy in Marina Del Rey who's got one.
Is he the guy that you post driving around the Roadster? With all the miles
195,000 miles on it, and it doesn't look like your Porsche.
What's that guy's story? Is he the original owner?
I don't know, but I've seen him for at least 10 years driving that same car. Yeah, so
no power on no car. That's what the kids say.
I've never been able to I've seen him driving and I've seen it parked, but I've never actually seen him standing around it to stop and talk to him.
He's not in Malibu at the Cars and Coffee.
No, it's just his car. He's not like, I don't think he's an enthusiast or anything.
He's like Californication.
He just does. It really is like like David Duchovny's Porsche in Californication. So there's another dude in Venice who's got a R129 Mercedes SL that is so fucked and visibly deteriorating like by the month. Yeah. But he's still
driving it.
He's driving. He wears a suit.
Oh, nice.
And he's smoking a cigar.
Dressing for like Columbo.
He's driving it like it's a brand new SL, but it's just smashed in and just fucked. And I just love this guy.
That's big dick energy,
That's
right
so
there.
Great.
One of my favorite cars, I will say, that I drove on the next big thing was Irv Gordon's 3.2 million mile Volvo P1800.
Get the fuck out of here! You drove it?
Apparently, I'm the first guy that drove it since he unfortunately passed away.
Who owns it?
Volvo USA owns it. So to backtrack on that story, I met him probably, I guess he passed in 2018, 2019. I met him, I don't know, 6-7 years ago. Yeah. Ironically, in downtown LA, on my street. He was shooting a commercial for Volvo.
With his car?
With his car. So the story of his car, 1967, it's the Guinness Book of World Records highest mileage privately owned non-commercial car. 3.2 million miles on it. Supposedly engine's been rebuilt 2 or 3 times. When I met him, it had 2.8 million miles on it. But back in the 70s, Volvo started tracking high mileage cars through the dealer maintenance records.
Okay.
And he was another guy, kind of like my Turbo S guy. Commuted. He was a school teacher in New York and had like a 100-mile commute each day and racked these miles up pretty quickly. And by the late 70s, it had 1 million miles on it. And then he started doing events with Volvo, because talk about a good brand endorsement, a car that had 1 million miles on it. Now it's 2, now it's 3.2. So we shot an episode in New Jersey with that car with Irv's original mechanic who'd worked on the car for the past 30 years. And Volvo USA owns that car, and that's a pretty cool shoot. It rained that day, and the production company was, it's raining, it's going to suck. I'm like, no, this is going to make the shoot better.
It'll look awesome.
We got wipers going and mist and, spray coming up. Yeah, lots of action.
How was it to drive?
I really liked it. I drove a couple of them. One was like a factory restored version, which wasn't nearly as good as his, where everything was just kind of slick and seats were sagging and had character, and I'm all about character. So it's not the fastest car, steering's kind of vague, it shifted great, but it was kind of an emotional event or day for me, because having met the guy before when he was still around, and then got to drive that car, which is a pretty special car. So that's
super special car. Yeah. That's a cool one.
Yeah, and of course, if you're familiar with the Saint, Roger Moore, Simon Templar, he drove that car back in the day. We got number 4 adjustment again.
No, what's happening is
you got some big shoes.
I kicked a wire, and the wire tugged the camera. I apologize.
How many cameras you got here?
5.
This is quite the setup.
Yeah, they're wireless, but they have power supplies, and I kicked one.
Yeah, be careful what you kick.
I didn't realize
you kick whatever you want. But anyway, that was a great car for me to drive. The one strange thing about that shoot that day is the car ran out of fuel. No big deal, but it had been transported there by Volvo USA in a 40-foot transporter. Do you think they had a 5-gallon can of gas with them?
No.
Do you think they did? No, he didn't.
Oh, God, you'd have called AAA. What do you got? I got a 3 million mile Volvo. Yeah. Can you bring some gas?
And it was, torrential, and I'm talking torrential downpour.
Yeah, it sucks.
It ran out of gas. And of course, we hadn't quite finished shooting. You're going for just one more run.
The light and,
it's raining, ran out of gas. I'm like, you guys don't have gas? It's a checklist now. You know, if you get to season 3, I have a checklist on
Jerry can.
We need cars that are, full of gas, cars that are not on 14-year-old tires.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
I shoot an episode 3, Hack Mechanic, M Coupe, BMW. Tires are 14 years old.
Get the fuck out of here.
We find that out after the fact.
Yeah, that's not good.
So
that's not good.
I don't know if you guys
I'm
have a
such dick
checklist
about that too.
Do you
not
check
only
it
with,
now, though?
with cars I drive, with if I ever drive a personally owned car, absolutely.
That's the first
But
thing.
I'm a shithead about it with my friends' cars too.
Yeah.
I have a friend who bought a Diablo. And he took it to he bought it, and the first time I saw the thing, it was in the canyons, and I was like, "Oh wow, look at this! Wow, you got this
And then you look at the
Diablo
tires.
SV."
Is that the red one?
The red one, Paul.
Yeah.
Fucking tires are 2003.
There
Like,
you go.
Fuck.
18-year-old
Now,
tires.
I shamed him into immediately getting new tires.
That's the first thing you should get.
But I was like, "Oh, please don't die today."
What tires you in on the Countach size?
Oh God, let's see. I believe it's a 205 55 14 front
Whoa.
and a 345 or 355 55 15 rear.
Well, a 205 55 14.
Yeah,
That's something you
so
put on a Mini.
It's so ridiculous. I mean, if the Countach owning lobby wasn't powerful enough influence at Pirelli,
Whoa.
you'd fucking know none of these cars would ever have tires again.
That runs on Pirellis?
Yeah, and they're new, they're brand new, and they make them look like the
Vintage
old. They make them look
correct.
like the old tires. So
With
they
soft,
have
sticky
two
compound.
options. What I have are the ones that look old but have new rubber, and they have the non-traditional that's just a modern tire, where the sidewall looks vintage, but the
Okay.
tread
Different
is
tread pattern.
modern.
Okay.
And apparently those are like amazing, and I may try them next. But
Next.
I'm happy with these. I'm glad they make them. It's
Do you have a Diablo on the list?
that wasn't my poster.
Yeah.
I think if we're talking about the next big thing,
Yeah.
I think they're undervalued in the market. And when I see them out, I'm like, ooh.
What is the market for a Diablo?
An early car, and like a 91, 92 with the double stack cluster and the pre-VT is probably like maybe probably under 225
Okay.
still. VTs are like 250. Roadsters are in the 3s, and then you start to get into the 4s and 5s for the 6.0s. The 6.0s are like much, much nicer.
That's some holy grail stuff.
Yeah, and as they get newer,
Which
they
ones
get,
have power steering? I heard those early ones are kind of heavy without.
91s don't. 91, 92s don't. They added power steering in 94 or 5. Yeah.
What is the entry-level Lamborghini then? Is that like a Gallardo now?
Oh yeah, Gallardo's like fucking 80 grand if you want a cheap one. They get pretty cheap, yeah. Nothing with a V12 is cheap, but you can get V10 cars,
Yeah.
early, like you don't want an 04 even if it's free, but like 05, 06's Gallardos are probably like 85, 90 grand. Get
Okay.
you a decent one. Yeah, that's probably the entry. Unless you wanted like a Jalpa.
Yeah.
You
A
wanna
Spada.
You want to fuck with a Jalpa or
I
something
wouldn't
that.
mind a Jalpa.
You would look good in a Spada.
I drove one. Season 1, we did this Spada.
Did you drive Aaron Robinson's car?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like driving a pickup truck.
Yeah.
I drove down the 308 GT4 back to back, and the 308 GT4 just seemed super nimble. and
Yeah.
neither one was fast, but the Spada was cool, got shitloads of attention, but wasn't necessarily fun to drive.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a big car,
Yeah.
Just the fact that it has a V12 doesn't inherently make it.
No, I didn't make it fast, but it sounded good.
Yeah.
Somehow
Yeah,
that was
these
chosen.
early Diablos are undervalued still, and eventually will catch up. It's sort of the opposite of the Countach, like the earlier the Countach, like kind of the more desirable
Yeah.
it is. It's flip flopped with
What year
Diablos.
is yours?
Mine's an '88.
Okay.
So mine is the last year before they switched to the anniversary and
Okay.
started adding all that weird
And then
shit.
what was the first year?
74.
Oh,
They
nuts.
made those things for
LP
fucking
400.
16 years.
So what-
2,000 cars in 16 years.
What is a Periscope?
74.
What's that worth?
Oh, a mil to a mil two.
Wow, nutty.
But they made 175 of them, I think, or 174.
That's pretty
They're
rare.
they're very rare. I've never driven a really early narrow body car. I would really like to.
I do like the quirky look of that right there.
Jalpa's cool, man. They're pretty.
It's like a Lamborghini Pantera a little bit,
Yeah.
little bit of
It's
1M.
a
Look
Lamborghini
at the door handles.
328. is
Yeah, there you
basically
go.
what it is. The transverse V8, and the V8 is just 8 cylinders of the 12. They
Right.
just cut off 4 of the
two-thirds by
cylinders.
my
It's
math,
a
Zach.
2/3.
Thank you. I'll check that later.
Yeah, check those facts later. Get out your calculator.
And then here's some more math. To get from that to a Chiseda V16, they just doubled up the V8,
double
the
the V8.
Lambo V8, to make it a V16. It's like, oh boy.
That's kind of a crazy car. Pull that one up.
The 16?
Yeah.
We were just talking about that on the last shows because there's going to be one for sale at
Monterey?
At Monterey.
Are you going
Yeah.
up there?
I don't know. Are you?
Yeah, I'm going
You have
up.
a gig, or are you going for fun?
I'm always going for fun. You know, well, weirdly you should say that. Hagerty's asked me to do some stuff there, and one of them
cool.
is a fireside chat at the Quail.
Yeah.
So I'm going to reach out to someone later on this week. Might be a little out of the box thinking, but yeah.
For you to host a chat with a as yet unidentified guest at the
basically
Quail.
Hagerty said to me, you know, we're doing some activation. Would you be interested in
Yeah.
doing a meet and greet at the track? I'm like, sure, I'll be at the track because the Historics to me is one of the best bits
Yeah,
of Car
Historics
Week.
rules, yeah.
And they said, what else you doing there? I go, I'm up there for, I don't know, 4 or 5 days kicking around. They go, how about we have you host a fireside chat at the Quail? Which
I'll
was
take
kind of funny.
2 passes to the Quail,
Yeah,
please.
exactly.
And,
I once drove right into the Quail. Funny story with Alex from Sharkworks. I'm in 277, so it's, I don't know, 2014, 2015. And we're heading to the Porsche Zentrum, which is literally next to the Quail. But we came in from the south side, so we literally drove into the Quail. Someone tried to stop us. Of course, I just drove around. And we parked. And we were parking there to walk to the Porsche Zentrum. And then we realized, fuck, we're in the Quail.
we're in the show.
We're in the Quail. So, of course, we just kept walking around the Quail. And
Act
that
as
was
if,
it.
bro. Act
Yeah.
as if.
That was completely it. Completely it.
That's hilarious.
So-
Did you ever watch the video of the Car Bros when they drove their fake, terrible Enzo replica and they registered it for the Quail and drove? They got all the way past
Oh,
2
yeah,
security
yeah,
guards because
This sounds great
Because
already.
whoever gave the credentials away didn't know anything about cars online,
Of
so they
course.
just went, "Sure, Enzo, great." And then when they pulled up to the first line, the person looked at the car and looked at the car,
It's
and
a
they went,
Fiero.
"Okay, says Enzo. That says Enzo. Okay." And they finally got to like the last guy, and the last guy looks, and he just walks up and he's like, "What's going on here?" but they let him park. They let him join because they're like, "Look, you got so far. They
Yeah.
let you register. This is hilarious," and they let him park there.
All the way.
They let him stay?
Yeah,
They did?
Great
That's
video.
very
Long
funny.
video, but great video.
That is very funny.
Are you a fan of the Quail? I mean, there's cool
I feel
cars
that
there.
seems like a very loaded question.
Straightforward question.
Am I a fan of the Quail?
Of the Quail event, not the golf course, but the event that happens during Monterey Car Week.
I mean, look, I understand the tickets are extremely expensive and hard to get, and it's a kind of a thing to get in. I've never personally had to pay to go. I found it to be a nice event.
Yeah, good
I
cause.
show up, I go in, there's oysters and champagne and nice car. There's Christian von Koenigsegg and hey, all right, you know, Jim Glickenhaus and you and Leno and everyone seems to be there, and it's kind of dope.
Yeah.
But like,
It's
I
a
don't
short
know.
event, though. It seems to be done early, right? You know, it
Yeah.
seems like it's over by 3.
But if I paid $1,000 to go, would I feel like I got my money's
Money's
worth? Like, I don't know.
you got to eat a lot of caviar or whatever it is they're serving there, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But anyway, back to Monterey. I mean, are you interested in the auctions there?
Yes, I am interested. I'd like to go.
Is this a keep your finger on the pulse thing, or it's
Kind
just,
of, and I
great
like
meeting
I
spot.
like the traffic jams there.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
like to, I like to hop on a bicycle and just ride around in traffic and just see
That's
what I
actually
see.
a smart way to get around? Because
Dude, Dan Neal had them drop a fucking Vespa off at his Airbnb
Oh,
up
there
there
you go.
once, a pressed Vespa. That's like genius.
yeah.
I
It's
think
slow
it is
moving.
cool. Yeah, it is, but it's an unbelievable thing to see and
Right.
be a part of, and
a good assortment of cars there.
yeah. Zach, do we have a bunch of questions to get to?
Yeah, let me
All right,
sort
you
them
can
for
sort them up, but the and all the industry folks and whatnot. But I don't. I just can't justify it as a vacation.
What about Goodwood Festival of Speed? We know that just
that's
happened.
the bucket list.
Have
shit.
you gone to that?
Never. You?
Yeah, I was there a couple of years ago. I've done Revival, which is it's like being in the Twilight Zone in Dad's Army
You
at a
gotta dress
racetrack,
up.
dressed up. And I'm not the guy that dresses up for Halloween, so I'm like, oh, I don't want to dress up. I ended up going like as Mick Fleetwood from the 60s or something. So it wasn't too much of a stretch, but I was in costume.
Yeah, you could. I mean, you don't have. That's what I'm saying. You could pretty much just do a hippie version of yourself.
That's kind of what I did. The people that are not dressed up are the ones that stand out because it literally feels like you've been transported back to 1950s Britain.
That's what I learned by going to Oktoberfest.
Okay, yeah.
I was like, I don't want to buy lederhosen. That's dumb. And then we did it. We bought the lederhosen, the whole thing. And then when we got there, I was like, thank God we are wearing this lederhosen, because I would feel dumb as hell without this stuff on. You know?
Yeah, man. I would love to go. Goodwood, dress up. Do
I would dress up for Goodwood.
The revival is everything, because it's all big bands from the 50s and 60s, swing music. You walk into, the store, right, to buy whatever, a coffee. It's in a cup that looks like it's from the 50s.
Is it 5 cents?
No, it's not 5 cents, of course.
See,
it's England, it's Goodwood. I mean,
everything's period but the prices.
Oh, they're adjusted for inflation.
Yeah, there you go, adjusted for inflation. But it's this environment that having lived in America for so long, I'd forgot when I went there in 2014 just how the Brits do pantomime. They put on a show, and everywhere you went was literally like being in the Twilight Zone, and you get immersed in that. And it doesn't really happen anywhere else in the world. And then Festival of Speed's like a completely different thing. It's like a lot more it's all modern.
Yeah.
It's more corporate, a little more ostentatious.
No, you don't find a car Renaissance fair a lot of places.
If you've gone to the Renaissance fair out there at Glen Helen Blockbuster Pavilion or whatever it is,
I have.
San Bernardino, that's kind of like what Revival is at a racetrack.
Seems fun.
On the East Coast, Renaissance fairs were like a big
Ren
thing
fair.
back in the day.
Get on a court jester hat.
Yeah. The radio commercials were fucking incessant.
Does that one still happen out here? The Ren
I
fair?
don't know. The one I went to was back in the East Coast.
Thing?
Yeah. If there's one here, you
I
know.
went 2 years ago. 2 years ago.
So
I have friends that work
San
here. Yeah,
Bernardino?
I got the biggest hangover I'd had in 10 years because I drank.
What were you drinking?
Mead, because that's all they sell.
Mead. Is that refreshing?
It's delicious and refreshing. And then the next day and the day after that, you were
day after that?
it carried over till the morning after.
Oh,
It was
boy.
rough.
What is mead again? It's like beer-ish, right?
No, it's super sugary wine. It's like sweeter wine. I don't know what it's made from, but
Does it come in a box?
It comes in. No, they serve it like a plastic pint. But what they do is they give you the mead, and you have to start drinking from it. Like the barmaids with like the boobs pushed up. So they have you drink from it while they hold it, and then they pour more mead in while you're chugging, and they don't stop until you just cough and can't. And then so now you've just drank two.
This is drunk people things here.
Yeah.
One is two at the Renaissance.
Exactly.
Double
Yeah,
it up.
2 for 1, but do you regret it? But it's fun.
Were you wearing the tights and the hat? And
No,
everything?
I went normal, but my friends all like work and sing there, and they're all dressed up and talking.
They're court jesters.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's cool. And then you can throw knives and do whatever. Yeah.
Put it on the list.
What's speaking of lists? What's on your list? I'm tapped out for buying cars for a while. What about yourself?
Well, I went on my little Rule Britannia 2+2 automatic E-Type Jag Quest last year. I got a Series 2, Series 3. The one I'm kind of excited about, the Series 3 V12, it's got all this perfectly blue, cracked up patina.
Wait, but didn't you buy two in order to have one working one?
Yes and no. Yes and no. I bought the Series 2 because it was a running driving car and it seemed too nice and didn't have the patina. Then my buddy Al in Miami said, I've got the car for you. It had been out in the Miami sun and rain, and it had this perfect leather-looking patina, and it ran, sort of. So the goal there is a 5-speed gate rag manual conversion from the automatic.
And that's like what they use, right? That's not reinventing the wheel, right? To put that 5-speed, like if you wanted to convert an E-Type from automatic to manual, that's just what you do, right?
Originally, back in the day, they were 4-speed, so it's not quite what they do, but it's the modern interpretation of what they do. Kind of a little bit like the Silver Pig Mercedes AMG. They've done modern components in that retro body style. So I suppose the idea really is modern performance from a gate rag 5 or 6-speed and approximately 400 horsepower out of the V12, and then redo all the underpinnings, suspension bushings and stuff, but keep all the messed up patina.
Can you have that engine make that power without doing major stuff?
There's various levels to get it there, but yes, the short answer is yes, you can.
Yeah.
How reliable it is, time will tell. But it's like 400 horsepower today is nothing, right? But in an E-Type Jag, 400 horsepower is plenty.
That's a 2,500 pound car. I mean, it doesn't weigh shit.
Right, for sure. So that's kind of the new goal there.
I was just reading Sam Smith's E-Type piece in this month's Hagerty magazine. And
is that the Drivers Club magazine?
Yeah.
You get that?
I do.
Okay.
Do you want a copy? I have an extra.
Yeah, I'll take one with me.
Well, I get it to my house and then I get it to the shop, so I have two. But I read that piece.
What year was his E-Type?
How much are these things again? He wasn't driving his. He was driving a friend's, but it was a 4.2 two-seat coupe, and it was beautiful. And whoever took the photos for that article, I don't know who it was, but it was excellent. And
let me see if I can find a photo of my first E-Type right here.
I love the coupes, man.
Well, that's what I had. I had a Series 1 67.
You and I think we're too tall for the Roadsters. We look a little weird with our bodies sticking so far above the windshield.
Well, that's it for me. Plus, too much wind in the hair, blowing around, that type of stuff.
I don't have that problem.
You don't have that
obviously.
problem.
Aerodynamic.
Aero. Look at that. Hold on, bear with me. I'm scrolling. E-Type Jag. Where is it? 67.
Have you driven any of those, like one of those Eagle things or anything?
No, the Eagle E-Type.
I didn't drive an Eagle, but I drove like a knockoff Eagle, and it was fucking crazy, actually.
Magnus is the first person I've filmed with where the host shows up with a jumper box in their car.
Oh, that was at the Peterson.
Rocking the white car.
Yeah, in the white car.
And, I mean, to your credit, it worked every time when you jumped it. That was funny.
That was my 67.
That's
Series
a
one.
red Series 1 coupe looking good. That's a 3.8?
No, well...
Or it's a 4.2?
So later 4.2. The 3.8 went from 61 to 64, non-synchro box. 64 through 67 Series 1,
okay, with 4.2 with synchros. You definitely want synchros. Synchros are good.
That's
very pretty.
That was when there were 20 grand cars.
Yeah, wow. Sam drove
in the
one
90s.
just like that was black.
Okay.
And it was fabulous looking, and that car is probably 100 grand now.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But entry level, you want to get into an E-Type 2+2 automatic, you can pick them up in the teens.
I'm not shocked. Yeah.
But they don't run great.
Is it? Well, the teens. Is it worthwhile to just buy it for the body and chassis and sort your own powertrain out?
Well, that's essentially what I did with the V12 one.
Yeah.
It was a running, driving car in the teens.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I'm trying to do that on a budget without going too far down the slippery slope.
I mean, who's going to do it? You? Are you going to do it in-house?
No, there's a guy called Ari, English dude, West Coast E-Type guy. He seems to be the specialist in that. I'm talking to him.
You know it's good when it's like it's not the names of shops. It's like one human's name.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And, Moss Motors seems to be the go-to parts supplier. That's XK's Unlimited merged into Moss Motors.
Oh, that was XK's Unlimited?
Yeah, XK's Unlimited. It used to be in San Luis Obispo. He's now got bought out and he's part of Moss Motors.
Oh, cool.
They pretty much got a whole catalog of stuff you may or may not need for one.
Oh, good.
I mean, there's plenty of ropey ones around. I looked at a few at Beverly Hills Car Club that were in the teens and had no floors and stuff like that. So, you do have to be a little careful about
the term mechanically sound is used loosely from time to time.
Flintstone type of car.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's hard to deny the appeal. I mean, especially of a fucking coupe. I mean, they look and sound so good.
They do. I mean, my Series 1, that was a car I bought in the 90s, flew up to Sacramento. I had cash in a backpack. I bought a round trip ticket, but I ended up buying the car. Drove it from Sacramento back to downtown. This was like 94. Made it all the way within quarter of a mile of my loft at the time, and basically the clutch went out on the car. And the car had supposedly been restored, and that was like entry level to E-Type Jag ownership, slippery slope. Then we solved the overheating problem with a bigger dual fan radiator. But every time we'd park the car for a year and we'd say, why don't we drive this car? It looks so great. And then we'd go drive it, and then we'd quickly realize why we don't drive it all the time. So I think the story with an E-Type is probably like anything. It's probably like the 355 I was talking about earlier. I think they have to be driven and well maintained and well set up. It's like the famous story about, when they drove to the Geneva Auto Show in 1961, they did 150 miles an hour. That was not a stock car. If you drive one in stock form, they're kind of squirrely, they get nosedivey, they're a little swirly. You have to stiffen them up.
Well, that was the other half of Sam's story. One was how nice this E-Type was to drive and how beautiful it was, and the other half of it was that the guy who owned it knows every E-Type trick in the book and is the ultimate, East Coast E-Type expert. And
he's the man.
This was the most perfectly set up. What you're just saying, but this one was perfect.
Got it.
Yeah. Maybe we'll give them a call, see what's what.
But they look great. They are fun to drive. Weirdly, I did the Milli Milli with Mercedes a couple of years ago, and I did it in a Mercedes Gullwing 300 SL. And someone goes, what's that like to drive? I go, well, have you ever driven an E-Type Jag? Because it's really similar, but the E-Type Jag stops better than the Gullwing because it's got disc brakes. And that was Jag's sort of claim to fame that they were the first production car with disc brakes when everyone else was running drum brakes in the 50s and stuff.
Oh, you know what it was? It was the 300 SL Roadster had the disc brakes. and some people convert their coupes to the Roadster rear ends with the disc brakes. Yeah, because that was in '61.
Yeah.
And the Jag would have come out with it.
Yeah.
So maybe they're probably right.
Yeah, and their claim to fame was it beat Enzo to the punch, and Enzo said, "Oh, it's the world's most beautiful car." But at the time, the Ferraris were running drum brakes.
Yeah, and at the time, the Ferraris were not good looking. The Ferraris were kind of funky looking in the early '50s.
What are your thoughts on Ferraris today? New ones,
the newest ones?
Yeah.
That 812 GTS is the shit.
Yeah.
That's what's up. I wasn't particularly into the F8 or the SF90, despite the unbelievable speed.
Yeah.
You know, I was impressed with the SF90, but when I got home, I wasn't like, ooh, I gotta have that. After you, because you drove the SF90,
the blue one, I think, right?
Yeah, we drove the white one. But after driving that car, that was when I came up with my 355 with a spare powertrain idea.
Got it.
That was my alternative to that.
I think if the 355 drove like the 360, it would be the ultimate car, because they both look cool, but somehow to me, the wedgie 355 is more desirable to my sort of palate.
It's so pretty.
Yeah.
The 360 is a nice driving car, though.
And side by side, though, the 360 really looks big next to a 355. And they're only like, a couple of years apart, but the 360 seems way more advanced and modern.
Yeah. It was a real. Even then, it was like, oh yes, we could. This can just be used as like a car.
Yeah.
Even then, the 355 seemed fragile. Even 15 years ago.
But now I'm thinking 348. It's like a baby Testarossa, right?
Yeah.
With those side rakes.
That kid's yellow car that I drove was really nice. It was a Spider, so it was a '94, and it was really
the one
really
we rented.
Good. Yeah.
So it raises the question to me: what does it cost to get into a Testarossa?
80 will get you into a shitty one. 100 will get you into a really nice driver. 125 is where they start getting really nice.
Have they come down? I kind of seem like
they bottomed out about 8 years ago, and they've been creeping.
So this is on the creep up. It's on the
up. It's on the up. Yeah, it's on the up. 348s are the last ones that are like bottomed out.
Well, no. Well,
456s.
Well,
maybe.
that brings me to the other question: Ferrari Mondale.
Oh, they're going to be 50 grand forever.
I think you can pick them up for 20 or 30 grand, can't you?
Chris Harris just bought one.
Yeah.
He just bought one for himself. Yeah.
I saw that.
When I see him every once in a while, I'm like, ooh, those are nice.
I mean, I see one for 25 grand. It's a coupe. I go, how bad can it be? I mean, obviously it can be bad.
It can be bad.
But you go, entry level is not really that bad. It's obtainable, right?
That's one of the only cars where halfway through the production run, they change the orientation of the engine.
That can't be good.
It's a transverse engine, and then they go to the Mondale T, and it's a longitudinal engine. Crazy, right?
That's a 90-degree turn, right?
That's fucking crazy. And then you have to do a major engine out.
So, last Ferrari question: is Ferrari making an SUV? Is this yes. Like the lime green thing outside? I mean,
the Urus. We have a video coming out with the Urus next week.
How do you like the Urus? That's fast, that car.
Objectively, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard, regardless of what you think about whether should they be making an SUV or not. If you just
isn't that their number one selling car by like 2 to 1 at least? Yeah. I guess they made the right move.
Yeah.
So that means Ferrari's doing one.
Fast as fuck. It's so fast.
Ferrari can't look at that and just go, yeah, we don't like money that much.
Yeah, we're Italian. We don't like money that much.
Right.
No, it's really fast. Have you driven one, right?
Yeah, I drove one.
They're really fast.
Yeah, they are.
It's not for me, but it's crazy.
And they don't blend in like every other SUV that sort of looks the same. Especially in that lime green color, but even in black.
Yeah.
There's something cool about the shape of the fact that it's unique and it doesn't look like every other appliance, right?
And if it's not, it's on the height adjustable suspension, and if it's on one of the sportier modes, like it's not high at all. If it's like Zach was driving it earlier today, and I was following in the Corvette on Corsa mode or whatever it was on its lowest setting, and it's like not an SUV anymore at that point. It has the same ground clearance as like an E-Class, E63, and it's not big, enormous wheels like poofy
The dead
tires.
cat space goes away.
Yeah, it all goes away.
I was really surprised.
Where did you guys drive it? Did you go to Crest?
We were up on the Crest this morning, yeah.
So you probably carried a lot of speed up there.
That thing is so fast, dude.
I know.
It's so fast.
So you went out to Newcomb's. We're talking about the Crest, right? You went out to
Newcomb's was for sale.
I hear this story, yeah.
Well, it seemed interesting.
Yeah.
As a possible opportunity to have a permanent
car storage halfway up the crest.
Not for car storage. To have a permanent Cars and Coffee outpost in the canyons.
Right.
And it's 10.5 acres. And it's got history.
Right.
You've been to the Dragon, right? Tail of the Dragon before?
I've never been. Believe it or not, it's on the list. Never been, but I've gone to Newcomb's hundreds of times.
Right, but so like Newcomb's, on the Tail of the Dragon, there's this place called Deals Gap Motorcycle Resort. That's like a hotel and a restaurant. It's pretty shitty, but the draw is the road, so the place was popping off even on like a Tuesday. So when you've got a draw like that, it seemed like a possible opportunity to develop. Sort of like my friend Phil in England has this caffeine and machine place that's cool. Yeah. To develop something
Phil
like
McGovern,
that. Yes, Phil McGovern. Here, up there, where there's an event space, a lodge, a coffee shop, small restaurant, and possibly not a hotel, but cabins that
Don't
you
they
could
have
rent.
some air rights to build a hotel there and some plans?
They were plans drawn up 30 years ago. They were never filed with the state or approved, but they exist. Air rights, you couldn't build a giant hotel, but you could build a small hotel, or you could build cabins. And I thought that it would be a good idea because I thought that you could open the restaurant and run it while you were going through the other development processes with the other part of the thing. So you're not just sinking in money and doing nothing while you're waiting 5 years for this thing to materialize. When I went to look at it, I didn't feel, and someone else might totally feel differently, I didn't feel that I would want to reopen the restaurant in the main building in its existing state. I would want to do fairly major renovations to the main building before even opening that, which led me down a whole other rabbit hole. And ultimately, I was like, if this thing was a fire sale price, it would be one thing, but it's a premium price, and someone who's really got stones as a developer or a hotelier, whatever, or some experience in the resort business. If the only unknown was that it's 40 miles up a mountain, you could deal with that, but there's a lot of unknowns for me.
Did they move it? I thought it was only 27 miles from the gas station.
27 miles from a gas
26,
station.
27,
yeah,
depends
27 miles from the gas station.
I think that's part of the challenge as well, though, is having, we love driving that stretch of road, but to drive it backwards and forwards to work every day and get
to drive it.
In a controllable environment, and then factor in winter when it's snowed in. And I've been going to Newcomb's for 25 years. Remember when the fires came and then the floods came and then the road was closed for a year and you can't get there?
Yeah.
How do you control that?
Yeah, no.
Or you can't get from the back end at Wrightwood because the tunnel's closed. I mean, let's not forget, the crest was closed for 18 months up until about a year ago.
Oh, yeah, because
you have to go around the back way around, right?
Yeah, yeah. So
those restrictions, I think, make it challenging as well.
Yeah, it was tough. It ended up not the fantasy was there. The reality wasn't so much there. But for somebody, I think it's an opportunity. For somebody.
Yeah. I first heard those rumblings a couple of months ago. I spoke to Freddie. I had this little price in my mind, and then he gave me a price that wasn't little. Yeah. It was bigger than my little price, times like 300%. I go, how's this ever going to work?
Yeah.
Because for me, I wouldn't want to lose the charm of what it already has.
Correct.
But yet at the price point where it's at, it kind of doesn't pan out.
And to keep the charm, but renovate it to where it's like, really where you'd want to run a restaurant, that would be more expensive than bulldozing the whole thing and building something new, which you don't want to do because of the history. Right. But a restoration focused on preservation 27 miles up a mountain from the nearest gas station is a project.
Yeah, for sure.
And I started thinking about what the next 5 years of my life would look like, and went, nah.
Just getting there to check on
I'll just park some cars, and that'll be cool.
One of my favorite things, though, is to drive. I mean, I love going there on the Friday morning. The Good Vibes Breakfast Club is awesome. But I also like going there on a Wednesday when no one's around, and it's just so peaceful there.
Well, we go up and film early mornings on the weekdays, and so we don't see anybody.
I try to avoid it on the weekends.
Yeah. No, it's good. Pick your 6 a.m. Tuesday or Wednesday, and it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Like anywhere else. I drive these roads all over the world, and I'm like, they're empty. People are like, how do you do that? It's like, I got up early.
Yeah, it's not hard if you get up early. Yeah. I mean, you got a few on the door there, but we got so many great roads around.
Dude, thanks for coming down.
My pleasure. Really,
great
really
to
nice.
have you. The next big thing is
this Friday, 9 a.m. LA time. Do the math on your time zone.
Every Friday.
Every Friday for the next 10 weeks. Season 2, to recap, is 10 episodes. Season 1 was 6. So 10 episodes, 15 cars. Episode 2 is the Ferraris 355, 360. I'll spoil it. Episode 3, M Coupe. Episode 4, Fox Body Saline Mustang. Episode 5, Saab 900 SPG, Zurich Motors in Brooklyn. Episode 6 is Gen 1 Boxster. Episode 7 is the Volvo P1800. Episode 8 is my buddy Phil with his Shamal. Episode 9 is Paul Kramer and his car that's in this book.
The Isuzu Impulse.
Yeah, the Isuzu Impulse.
Paul Kramer has the nicest Isuzu Impulse you've ever seen.
Tune in to episode 9 for it, and then we end the season, I guess, in September with a Class 11 Baja bug that I go off-roading in.
Oh, fun.
An MP bug that was pretty cool. So
rad. That sounds like that's a good lineup. I like that.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of variety, and I'm working on some other ideas. So
brilliant.
That's pretty much it.
Oh, we got a few questions before we get out of here.
The bolts are aimed at Magnus.
Okay, cool. Nothing. That was just a production note.
Right.
Chappie says, "Are you into the not into the 997s? You seem to have more of the other models."
Well, I guess Chappie wasn't listening to when I talked about the 991 Turbo S, because I was looking for a 997 Turbo, but never found one.
He may have written that before you said that.
Oh, could be. To answer your question, I am into 997s. It's on the list, just haven't found one yet. Maybe GT3 would be good, though.
Solitary Hero says, the air-cooled 911s seem small. The newest ones seem huge. Is the 997 the perfect size? And do the larger 911s shrink on one with familiarity?
Well, yes and no, maybe, possibly yes. For me, 996, I would say, would be the perfect one, only because it's the beginning of the water-cooled era. I really like the 996. And the larger 997s, 991 and 992, they do shrink with familiarity. 992 seems big next to the 991, I got to say.
Big. The 992, it quote, shrinks in terms of the fact that it is very agile.
Yeah. But goes around corners.
In the canyons,
our
road is not any wider. So
it's not shrinking there.
Yeah, so you realize that in a 992, whether it's a GT3 or whatever, a regular one, you got a couple of inches on either side, and that's all you got. Whereas an air-cooled car, you can really make a lane. You can drive a line.
If you're driving a 996 Aero Kit, narrow-bodied 1999 car in Decker Canyon, it doesn't seem big. If you're driving a 992 whatever in Decker Canyon, it's not shrinking. It's seeming pretty big. It's pretty wide. Yeah. The road's not getting any wider.
Yeah. MDK Kaiser says, moment of truth, Magnus, the worst Porsche you've ever driven.
Oh, that's a great question. It really is putting me on the spot here. I haven't really driven I've driven cars that don't really run, and I'll say that's a bad experience, right? When you buy something that's, sat for 30 years and it doesn't run. Worst driving one... I can't answer that question.
Are there any ones where they were working properly, you just weren't that into how they drove?
Well, that was almost, believe it or not, the Turbo S when I first got it. It did everything perfectly, but I got out and didn't look over my shoulder. I wasn't in love with it straight away.
Okay.
I'll answer that question when I'm driving home. I'll go, no, you remember that? That one was the worst one.
Text me later. I'll put it in the chat for the next show.
There you go.
Ryukachu says, the royal wedding, they used an electric converted Jaguar E-Type. Did it hurt your soul? Did it give you hope, or something in between?
You got to evolve with the times. High voltage rock and roll is coming through, so I say adapt to the times. It didn't hurt me.
I think also that the electric E-Type was Harry's wedding. I think William's wedding had an electric Aston Martin Vantage, a 70s Aston Vantage convertible, and I think both belonged to Prince Charles, who
that would make sense.
Had those cars converted for his own personal use.
Sounds like a Rule Britannia moment for me.
Queen Elizabeth is the cooler one. She rolls those Range Rovers around. She's the cooler one.
Drives herself around in there.
Yeah. Chip Manuel says, have you ever been mistaken for Rob Zombie?
All the time. Hey, aren't you Rob Zombie? Ironically, I've known Rob Zombie for about 20 years, and recently I ran into him on the Lower East Side in New York. Believe it or not, going to see my buddy Phil, and we had a little stop and chat. And it was the first time I've actually done, hey, can I be that guy? And did the selfie, which of course later became that day, hey, aren't you Rob Zombie, on an Instagram post. And when we stood next to each other, Rob's a little shorter and his beard's not quite as long. So
is it like you look like Rob Zombie till Rob Zombie pull up? Is that
it's kind of the opposite. I'm more Rob Zombie than Rob Zombie.
That's funny. You're like the caricature of Rob Zombie.
Yeah. Everyone expects Rob Zombie to be more like me, and then you meet him, he's a different thing.
You know, the last time I saw him on television, I actually kind of remember that you are more Rob Zombie than Rob Zombie right now.
Rob Zombie.
Jonathan Dixon, what are our opinions on the recently released Lotus Emira? We don't really know how to pronounce it.
Did you see that launch when it rained? It was so typically English, last week? I
think the car is very pretty. Nice looking car. Manual with the supercharged Toyota 6, dual clutch with the AMG little 4-cylinder.
4-banger.
Which is a fun little engine, high strung.
I'm a Lotus fan, former Lotus owner of a Europa. I had the S2 Esprit recently. Big fan of the Evora GT, and this to me looks pretty awesome. Yeah. This is their last of the line, right?
Last gas-powered car.
Supposedly their last gas-powered car. We will see what that if that is true. But
to me, I think it looks great.
Yeah. It looks nice. I mean, and if it's their last gas-powered car, like...
Go out on a bang with that one.
Yeah, they might make it for 20 years.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, it's not the last model year of their last gas-powered car.
This could be around in 2040.
Be around for a while. Yeah. No, I think it looks great.
The rest of these we can save.
The rest of these we will save for our crew show. Thank you all for joining us on this Monday afternoon. It's actually going to be a doubleheader. If you're with us live, you can come back at 4 p.m. We got Gareth Reynolds from the Dollop coming into studio. We're doubleheadering today.
Double trouble.
Zach went out of town last week, and so we got to play catch up.
It's Italy.
Oh, you driving some prancing ponies out there?
I did. F8, SF90, and Portofino M.
Portofino M.
Yeah. Trace Ferraris.
Now, we talked about the SF90. The one you drove, was it different than the one you drove?
No, we were together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so you drove it out there?
No, we drove the white one here, and then I went and drove. But the one I drove,
two goes.
The one I drove in Italy was the same spec.
Okay.
It was Fiorano pack, which I think the white one had as well. Yeah, it had harnesses in it. That was the only difference.
It's insanely fast.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's. I don't know about you, but like you said earlier, you alluded to the road determines your speed at that point.
Right.
So without an enormous amount of room,
you're running out of.
What am I doing?
Yeah, you're
running 1,000 horsepower
running out of road. Right? How much quicker can you get a Newcomb?
You can't, right?
Yeah.
Like, where are we going to be in 10 years? Like, are they going to keep adding power? Are they going to start
0 to 60 in 0?
I mean, tires can't handle it. Like, I'm curious what they're going to figure out. What will be the new selling point? You know,
it'll be like a 205/55 on a 14-inch tire. That'll be the new selling point, right?
Charmingly retro,
modernly classic.
Magnus Walker on Instagram, and
that's it. Man,
that's pretty much your social media.
That's it.
And Hagerty YouTube, and I'd say buy his shoes, but they sold out.
The shoes did sell out. The rug was a nice gift I got.
Who
from
got that? Who sent you that?
Hannah got that, of course.
That rug is the shit.
And it's big. It's about 4 feet long.
That's
it's
perfect
pretty awesome.
for your new house.
Yeah,
You're welcome, Matt.
house.
That's killer.
All right,
Thanks
guys.
for coming down, bro.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
I'm going to go outside and see the interior of your 165,000 mile Porsche.
You can check it out.
And we'll see the rest of you live, folks. Come back at 4 o'clock. Gareth Reynolds from the Dollop is in studio. Bye.
Cheers, guys.